Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of r/Malicious Compliance. In today's episode, you want me to speedrun the game so you have someone to talk to? Fine. Cop says I'm trespassed unless I get their permission again. So I oblige. Customer found a return policy loophole. Or not. Before we get started, make sure to subscribe so you will never miss a video. So let's get started. You want me to speedrun the game so you have someone to talk to? Fine. I, 25F, have a friend, 25, who's been wanting me to play Breath of the Wild for years now. It's not that I'm not interested in playing. Heck, I bought the game ages ago. I've just been more invested in other things. After 5 or so years, I finally cracked down to play and absolutely love it. My friend is equally excited and can't wait for me to get to their favorite parts. No, literally, they can't wait. Almost daily, I'm hounded with DMs asking how I like the game. Did I meet A yet? Have I done B yet? Have I finished C quest? Why is it taking so long for me to finish C quest? I prefer taking things on my own time. With a game of this scale, I want to take my sweet time exploring and finding things as I go. I feel like I'm progressing the plot at a decent pace, 50 hours into a game that other people have spent 300 on, and I'm doing fun side quests. Also, I have other hobbies and I've been playing the game along with the other things going on in my life. I've told them as much, and they're not very happy about it. At first, they were supportive if not a little pushy for me to play the game. When I talk about certain plot points and gameplay that I enjoyed, they'd brush off my gushing and say things along the lines of, "Oh, you haven't seen anything yet. You're not ready. Keep going." As I juggled between the game's two main missions, they pushed me to do one over the other because it's where the good stuff happens. Despite me saying multiple times that I wanted to go at my own pace and do both missions together, they hounded me with more messages about how I wasn't playing right and I need plot. I talked to them about it probably dozens of times, and they explained that they were so pushy because they needed someone else to talk to the game about. No, they wouldn't stop hounding me. I needed to keep going. For them. For our friendship. I'd thank them later. Speedrun. So I thought, to heck with it. They want me to speedrun, then I'll speedrun. I used guides and read up things to finish the game as quickly as I could. I honestly have no clue what I did or how I finished, but I did. I eventually sent them a screen cap of my finished game file and gave them my honest opinion. I hated it. There was no build up to anything. I didn't know any character well enough to be invested in their struggles, and the puzzles ranged from stupidly easy to unnecessarily complicated. That part of the game that they couldn't wait for me to find? Skipped over the dialogue. It wasn't worth the extra time. After all, I needed to finish the game as soon as possible, right? Needless to say, we're not friends anymore. Now that I've returned to my original save file and am playing how I want, I can say that Breath of the Wild is one of the best games I've played. Since I skipped over so much for the sake of being petty, a lot of things still feel like new. I have no shortage of other friends to talk about the game with, and thankfully, these ones encourage me to take my time. They can't wait for me to get to their favorite parts. But not literally, they'll wait however long it takes me. Breath of the Wild is probably my favorite game of all time, and I think it was specifically designed to be played slowly. You're supposed to discover things by accident and make mistakes and try again. Glad you are getting to enjoy the game as was intended. Honestly, I'm over 100 hours into TOC and Breath of the Wild still remains my favorite. Even though I'm really enjoying TOC, Breath of the Wild had become kind of a comfort game for me after the first couple of playthroughs, where I'd sew things differently or give myself small challenges. I feel the same way. 90% of my enjoyment in both Breath of the Wild and TOC so far has been me going, "What's that over there?" only to be distracted by something else, then something else distracts me from that second thing, and I fall into this endless cycle of exploration and distractions and completely forget what I originally set out to do. A friend should be able to say to another friend, "Hey, you're being pushy. Let me have my space so I can enjoy this without issue." Good riddance, and glad to hear you got to enjoy it at your pace. Absolute masterpiece of a game. My wife and kids just got into it and it's been super fun watching them go through everything. I beat it years ago so I don't remember much and I'm no help, lol. Yeah. I was just talking to a friend about a game I finished that they're partway through. I'm excited for them to get to parts one loved, but I want them to have the same experience I did, exploring and discovering things organically. I can be patient and wait until they get there, so their fun isn't ruined. LOL. Playing it wrong? The whole big thing with Breath of the Wild was that it is open world and offered more flexibility than previous games. As well as the, for the time, stunning graphics. With open world games, I'm more of an I want to collect all the items and do side things more than actually making sure I only do the main quests. I only got Breath of the Wild for my Switch, like, around when TODK came out, and I've spent more time on side quests and exploring than actual main quest content. I played a bit on my brother's Wii U when it first came out, but since it wasn't my console and I'd moved out of my mom's house by that point, I didn't have constant access, so my play fizzled out. I have a friend and a cousin who pushed me to play ACNH, which I love for similar reasons, but neither one of them would have unfriended me for playing it wrong. That's so dumb. Glad you've got better friends so the loss of the one wasn't as big of a thing, but they really need to get their priorities in order. Yikes. They did not want you to enjoy the game, they just wanted someone to talk to about the game. This was a one-way transaction for them. Good riddance, I'd say. Very selfish of them. One wonders why they couldn't talk to someone else who had already played the game. Oh wait, no one doesn't. It's pretty obvious why no one wants to talk to this guy. Exactly. This is an incredible game, and I am playing through it again myself, as I save up to get Tears of the Kingdom. This game is not enjoyable in any way if you are speedrunning, as you lose all of the story, and it just becomes a chore list of things to get done. I am glad to hear that you cut out the toxicity and have others around you to be excited for you to play this masterpiece correctly and want you to enjoy it the way that it is meant to be. What part of the game was it that they couldn't wait for you to find? I have had this game since release and have still not finished it because life and I want to enjoy it. Every time I play I find a new item or place or quest. It's such a beautiful game and there's no point in not enjoying it at your pace. Cop says I'm trespassed unless I get their permission again. So I oblige. So I was at this hotel lobby sitting there waiting to go to a restaurant. All of a sudden 2 cops show up, ask me for ID, then tell me I have to leave as a lady had complained that she didn't feel comfortable with me there. It was a total Karen call. One cop was kinda a jerk too. He tells me I gotta leave until they let me back. They stare at me as I walk to my car. Not sure what it was, I was wearing a political slogan shirt, but nothing vulgar. I call the hotel later and asked to speak with a manager who then explained some guest had called and she was kinda a Karen, so they wanted to make her happy. The manager said I'm welcome to come back to the property. I was reluctant to give them business again, but I could not let the cops or the Karen win. I go back to the hotel and sit at the restaurant. I call the police department and inform them I got permission to return. The dispatcher is aggravated and said he is required to send an officer to check. The same cop who was there earlier returns and gives me the evil look. He goes to the front desk, speaks to the manager who waves me to the front. The cop pulls out a form that he has to fill out and the manager reviews it and signs it. It was a trespass removal form. Both seemed very annoyed to have to go through the process, but it's the law. The cop storms out aggravated as I smile and say enjoy the day. The manager of the restaurant gives me a sort of smile and says I didn't have to call the cops back as it was just extra paperwork, but I wanted to comply with the policies, I think I may have saw the Karen walk out giving me a mean look as I was in the restaurant. I enjoyed the rest of my meal. Honestly, I would have had them go through the process of the paperwork and then walked out, never to return and give the place my business. This is what I was thinking: why didn't the management speak to the cops before they made you leave? And if they felt the Karen was out of line, why did they take her seriously the first time police were called? So I took off my hat and said, imagine that. Me eating with you? Weird. When this story was posted earlier this morning, you said you called and asked for the same cops to be sent back, so you could, paraphrasing, rub it in their faces. Plot twist: hotel manager was his mom. Dad was the bad cop. Sister was the Karen. The restaurant was mom's basement. Good cop was played by his dog and no animal was hurt in making up the story. Curious about what political slogan shirt you were wearing? Check their history. I think they've rehashed this story a few times. This is one of the least real posts ever made. Customer found a return policy loophole. Or not. Going back 20 years to my Best Buy days when HD DVD and Blu-ray started duking it out. As a customer assistant supervisor, I would occasionally help cover other supervisors or some manager duties. During a customer service manager lunch break, a customer came in and wanted to return an open DVD. Policy at the time was that we are unable to return those, as piracy was a thing back then that people somewhat cared about. I let the customer know that I was unable to return the DVD, but I could exchange it for the same item if it was defective or he was having an issue with it. The customer said he'd like to do that and got a sort of grin on his face. When I came back with the replacement movie, I took the plastic wrapper off in front of him as the grin slid off his face and his mouth went agape. Handing him the DVD, I wished him luck that it worked better than his last copy. The customer retorted something that slips my mind, then tossed the open DVD back at me and walked away. I still feel a small sense of satisfaction knowing the customer thought he would then be able to return the replacement new DVD. I just made sure that he got an exact replacement. How was I to know that this wouldn't be good enough? During my army days, my roommate was always late. His excuse was his alarm clock was broken. Our sergeant ordered him to buy a new alarm clock and bring it in with the receipt, then tore up the receipt so he could not return it. Did the same when I was at BB. Usually it was some kid that thought they were clever, but more than a few adults. Of course, these were the sorts of people that would fork over a CD, with the Walmart sticker still on it, and insist on a cash refund. Or the ones that got angry when we opened the box of the printer they were returning to discover the brick they had put inside. Never saw an angrier customer than the ones whose cunning plan was foiled. It just reminded me a time my mom bought a CD but ended up not liking it. She went back to the store and explained she wanted it resealed because she wanted to gift it to someone but also wanted to listen to it first to make sure the person would like it. They actually did it. When she came back another time, she was able to have it refunded. Plastic wrap and a hairdryer. Once we burned the CD, we would take it back. Did that hundreds of times. The hairdryer would melt the plastic back and it looked flawless once you got it down. This nonsense used to drive me crazy. Never, in the history of ever, have you ever been able to return media because you just didn't like it. DVDs, CDs, records, cassettes, VHS, none of it. And the number of people who kept insisting they had no idea they couldn't return it just drove me nuts. Had a woman try to get one over on me in my early years. She returned an over-the-counter inhaler and it didn't work. She wanted to exchange it. After she went to get a replacement, I opened it and found it contained an old empty one. When she came up with her other purchases, I rang it all up including her exchanged inhaler. She was not happy when she had to pay for it. This woman and her 2 daughters had been banned from several stores for theft. Saw this at least once a week working the returns desk at Wally World. Half the time they would come back saying we didn't have the same product. At which time, I'd call electronics, who always had better things to do than answer the phone, and asked them if we had any in the back, which of course was code for I've got a Karen that needs slapped down, and almost always they were able to find the product and bring it up for an exchange. This is like when I used to tell people that the cash register didn't accept expired coupons at a place where coupons didn't have barcodes and were entered manually. Never had a single Karen figure that out either. If you made it to the end of the video, thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and we will see you in the next video.